important for various reasons, right? And all of them, despite the order, but all of them are very key, right? So we understand that the students and academics and researchers have moved a great deal in terms of integrating AI within their workflows, right? And recently, if you're following trends in AI, right, and discussions around AI and agentic AI in the United States of America, AI has been labeled as a key infrastructure in the development of any country. So it is put at the same level as electricity, right, and internet, right? So they say that's how integral and that's how important AI should be treated, right? So it is the same level with electricity and the internet. It has been put in the same bracket. And another key development that I want to bring you to speed is that recently, and in the recent weeks, right, those who are from the University of the Free State, right, there is a recent development that the university has scrapped the use of Turnitin. It was also have scrapped the use of AI detection tools, right? There won't be any of those in the academics use, right? No academic will be allowed to use those tools when examining students' work, and no students will be allowed also to upload their work or to prove that they didn't, to submit a proof from any of those tools. Reason why? Because of the arguments that I've always put in this session, that the use of AI detection tools, it necessitates the need to cheat, right? It motivates students to be compliant when doing, to focus more on compliance when doing their assessments in terms of intellectual creativity. Because when you know that you're going, your assessment or your assignment is going to be put on AI detection, you won't focus more on the intellectual rigor of the assessment, but what you'd focus more is to how can I then beat the detection tool. And in that process, even if you've written your work effectively, if you feel like it's going to be detected, you're going to have to look for other tools so that they will reduce your AI in that process, now necessitating high levels of cheating, right? So I think that's a progressive step from the University of Free State to hear that they are scraping all those tools, following other universities like University of Cape Town. Another issue that also struck, that was of interest last week, I think, I received a call from one UNISA student who was going for a disciplinary hearing, right? Because they've used AI in doing their assessment. So one student was actually put on suspension, right? I'm sure most of us might know. Then this student here, because of the work that we've been doing in universities, then came and say, "This is my situation, right? I used AI. Then the supervisor submitted my work, and it's 39%. They submitted it on Turnitin, and it picked 39%. Then they sent me a declaration form to plead for, to accept duty, that I've done that. Then I did that. Then after that, they sent me a invitation for inquire for a disciplinary to determine whether I should be suspended or not. Right. So that was the whole week. Generally, it was a back and forth, right, in terms of how then do you prepare for such a hearing, right, where your fate is almost known, right? So the reason why I'm bringing this is the progress that is made, that other universities are making, for example, your University of Free State and following other universities, and what UNISA is pushing for. You see that there is somewhat a contradiction in terms of policy. There is no uniformity in terms of AI frameworks within these universities, because other universities are saying Turnitin doesn't work anymore. These detection tools that do not work anymore, but whereas UNISA is actually suspending students for those reasons, right? So what I advise the student, I will share next week after I've been given a full report of what transpired, right? I prepared a report for the students to go and present in the disciplinary. So when that has come, disciplinary was yesterday. So when that has happened, the results has come, then we can have a full detailed discussion of the outcome and the implications of the outcome on the future of the student. right? So those are key issues that are happening, developments that are happening, right? Is it pertains to the use of AI, right? Within the African, global, and South African context, right? So this workshop is important because we see that. Uh, the core institutional dilemma has evolved, right? Like I've said, the universities have moved from prohibiting AI to actively regulating its costs, right? To say, let's have some frameworks to guide how people or how students and how researchers use these AI tools. Then passive outsourcing of literature reviews quietly dismantles baseline competencies for scientific investigation. So we need to look at how we can enhance this, the use of these tools and these platforms. There's also the issue of speed and understanding, right? Generative tools are core infrastructure, global, like I've said, but the adoption. Colleagues, I'm hearing myself. Colleague, someone is a mic. I'm hearing myself. Colleagues, there is an echo that's coming. I'm not sure if that has been resolved.
Yes, it's gone.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you so much. So that's the reason why this conversation is of utmost importance, right? It's very important. So you'd see that the use of AI tools, by task has increased over the years, right? And the greatest use that we identify is the synthesis, text synthesis. Researchers and students are using 80% of researchers and students are using AI platforms for things like your synthesizing your text synthesis. Some are using it for drafting 82%, coding data 74%, literature review 68%, and citation search, right, is sitting at 55%. So what is changing in the age of AI and agentic era, right? From reactive assistants to autonomous knowledge producers, right? So what we see is the stimulated cognition, right? Simulated cognition, where autonomous agents now they mask the processing limitations beneath highly coherent and multi-paragraph synthesis, right? Making the gaps between what has been produced by a human and an AI platform very difficult to identify. What we see also is the literature gap, the literacy gap, where critical thinking now is expected to evolve into advanced co-authorship evaluation, right? To audit skills, automated agentic workflows, right? And also the authorship risk, where the landmark taxonomy reviews, it confirms that agentic systems capacity for independent execution alters traditional human authorship. So there is a shift in terms of how the concept of authorship has become, right, within this age of agentic AI. So we've moved from reactive assistance to autonomous knowledge producers, and you can see the chain there. That what now is happening is that the human provides the prompt, then the AI does the planning and the reasoning, then the agentic AI does the autonomous execution, then it self-corrects itself, then it gives you an output at the end of the day, with less and less human interaction and human engagement with the platform. So this has caused what we regard to as the illusion of intelligence, right? By the illusion of intelligence, what we simply mean is that a linguistic influence disarms human skepticism, right, where it triggering cognitive overtrust, right? So what happens is what they regard to as the hollow effect, to say the platform has produced well polished work, right, that is fluent and that is flawless, right, but is it intelligent enough? Is that information rigorous and effective enough for it to merit intellectual rigor, right? So the halo effect then it discusses to the behavioral model that confirms the polished syntactic structure causes users to rate AI accuracy and competence artificially high, right? So we're saying because of how the work is polished or how the text is polished, now human beings, when they are provided with that information, right, when they're provided with that polished information, right, they regard to that as perfect grammar and they regard to it as intelligent information, right, despite the fact that they have not tested the rigor of that information. So what we see is that you get trapped in the confidence trap, where the perfect grammar and the factual accuracy, where user assumes that LLM fluence implies verified knowledge, right? In actual fact, that knowledge has not been verified, and if in actual fact that knowledge is not strong enough and convincing enough, it's only that it has it is fluent, right, and it is well polished, right? So what we also see in the age of AI, when researchers and students receive that output from the info from those platforms, is that when generating professional text costs zero effort, users' inclination to cross-examination claims drops proportionally, right? So what we're saying is that the fact that information looks good and reads well, it reduces skepticism against that information and therefore reduces a user's inclination to cross-examine that claims or the claims that have been produced by ChatGPT, right? So we also see that people are in the overdrive, where the human cognitive in architecture naturally equates linguistic sophistication with truthfulness, which is a dangerous shortcut, right? So by nature, we're saying that human beings, right, whenever they see something that reads well, right, they say, this sounds too good to be true, right? They say, oh, okay, this can be a false claim. Why? Because it is presented with confidence and also with fluency, right? The other problem or the other danger that we that is common, right, that we've seen over the years is the danger of hallucinations, right? This is here describes to the situation when AI fabricates information, right? AI fabricates information a great deal. What we see is that if AI by its nature, right, doesn't do fact checking, right? It does not have fact checking mechanisms. How it operates is that it works on probabilistic text generation, right? That inherently lacks a fact checking mechanism, right? So we would see that researchers reviewed that over 12 times percent, over times 12 increase in fabrication citations since 2023. There is an increase in terms of work that has been submitted with fabricated citations since 2023 until recently. We also know that in essay, the AI draft policy itself had fabricated citations, right? And also the study that was done by Lancet 2026, it reviewed that on 2.5 million papers that were done, right? It reviewed that there was a huge number of papers that were actually published with fake citations, right, with fabricated citations, right, and one in every 277 papers that were infected by fabricated citations in 2026. This is the area of concern, right, to say in every 277 papers that were published so far in 2026, right, at least one of them, right, has a fake citation, right? So what we see is that there's an increased contamination rate in peer-reviewed literature. And when we publish our work with those fake citations, they will be recited by other scholars. So we will have a circulation of all those fake citations, right, across the board, right? So what we see is that there is an increase and there's a constant increase of citations over the years, right? From 2023, we would see that the number has been increasing greatly, right, until we get to 2026, right? In every reviewed papers, in every 277 papers, right, they will identify 12 papers that have a problem, right, since 2003 to 2020 to 2026, right? So what we're saying is that LLM, they do not have those capabilities to fact check and verify, and that responsibility then lies solely with the researcher, right? LLM, they do optimize for plausible word sequences, right? They work with probability and word sequencing, not factual validation. So hallucination is the natural byproduct of an AA of an AI a platform, right? It is inherent in them, right? There's nothing much you can do but to use prompt and to prompt again and to use some different prompts and commands that reduces the amount of hallucination. But naturally and inherently, these platforms, they do infested with those they do not have those capabilities to verify and validate information, right? So there is what we call the structural verisimilitude, right? So where you see that the fabricated URLs, the DOIs, the journal title looks, so they are indistinguishable from a real metadata without active cross-checking, right? So they look so good to be false, right? When you look at them, they follow the same sequence of citing using the Harvard style. They follow the same sequence of citing using any other platforms that you might name, or you might the citation style that you might need to follow through, right? So it behooves on the researcher themselves to actually do the verification from them for themselves. Right. So now the question is, why are hallucinations dangerous, right? Why are they so dangerous? So we're saying unverified AI outputs create structural citations contamination, like I've already said. So they say, so AI generated fabrication risk in number one, then researcher fails to verify number two, then it enters the peer review system number three, then it is published in a journal, then it is recited by others, right? By the end of the year, or in 5 years' time, you see that that full citation has been recited more than 100 times, right? And which is a problem, because what we're simply doing is we're contaminating the peer review system, we are contaminating the journal and the academic rigor within those platforms. Why? Because we have such a huge number of work or of citations that are not verified and that are fabricated, right? So what we regard to this as the epistemic corruption, right, where peer review suffers when reviewers must disproportionately verify whether cited literature actually exists, diverting effort from quality assessment. And this is a huge one, right? You'd find that these days, because of fear of contaminated citations or fabricated citations, when I'm examining a thesis or PhD dissertation or master's dissertation, I spend most of my time trying to verify the citations and less work on ensuring the quality and examining the quality of the work, right? And when I pick up all those unverified citations or fabricated citations, then I do not have time to read the work, because already the rigor of the work has been compromised, right? What I do is I'm going to have to send it back to say, you know what, the rigor and the credibility of this work is in question. We suggest that the student or the author needs to look at their citations. So another thing is the illusion of consensus, right? Is also another danger that comes with hallucination, right? Is fabricated data can be cited repeatedly, creating artificial support for invalid scientific hypotheses and undermining evidence-based policy. So when we're talking about evidence-based policy, we're saying we need to inform policy based on evidence of research that has been done. But then when we're having fake citations or fake studies that are being put in there and supporting some arguments that are otherwise flawed, right? What we'll do is that it will have a ripple effect on the kind of policy that we will have in the long term, right? So another issue is that compounding risk, right? Automated references contamination in systematic reviews introduce a compounding risk to evidentiary standards, right? In ResearchGate audit that was done in 2026 has reviewed this. Right, so I want us to deep down on the issue of sycophancy, right? And I'm sure most of us are familiar with this concept of sycophancy, right? So sycophancy is a popular term in psychology, right? What it simply say is that it talks about agreeableness, right? It talks about agreeableness, and most of us that use AI, we are familiar with hallucinations, we're familiar with biases, but the concept of sycophancy has in most cases has slipped through our fingers and without identifying it. So what this means is that when you prompt AI to generate a methodology for you, or when you prompt AI to give you an argument, right? There are high chances that it is going to behave in its inherent nature of being sycophantic, right? Of being sycophantic is that these platforms are designed to agree with the user, right? The platforms are designed to validate the user, right? So we call it the agreeable AI problem, right? They agree with everything that you see. They agree with everything that you say. They agree with every theory, even if it doesn't exist, that you bring to board. Everything that you want, even a methodology that you come with, they still agree with it, right? Without questioning whether that methodology is true or false, right? They will still agree with you. So that's what we call the agreeable AI problem. So studies that have been done, they've shown that optimization for user engagement causes AI to validate flawed hypotheses. So the AI platforms, they have a tendency to validate flawed hypotheses, right? Where 49% of participants who participated in a study that I'll show you later, they said they are more likely to affirm user actions versus human peers, right? So in this study, what happened is that they took students, right? Then they give them a platform that is one that is sycophantic, that is agreeable, and they pair them with a human, right? To say, discuss your problems with this person, right? And they say, discuss your problem with this AI platform, right? So in the instances where the participant was wrong, and the participant asked AI if what they did was wrong or bad, AI would say, even if it was wrong, right, you had a right to behave in this way. Whereas a human being would say, dude, this was wrong, you shouldn't have done this, right? So AI, in their inherent nature, they have a tendency to want to satisfy and to validate and to agree with the user, right, so that they can optimize use, right? So this is embedded with the AI platform themselves, right? So what this study proved is that um, uh, 24%, right, of users believe they suggested that AI affirm their user behavior, right? Where only 34% they said human beings, right? They actually critical of what they were saying, right? So what we simply saying is that instead of objective sounding boards, AI function as a rationalization tool that echoes human biases. They never push back, right? They never push back your argument. If you say, write a paper for me that argues that men are better than women, right? AI will generate that paper for you. It doesn't pause for a minute to say, hold on, right? There are other studies that argue otherwise, right? Because it wants to optimize usage and flow with your argument, it will follow through that. So what we see is the validation of veracity, right? So a flawed methodology submitted to an AI will receive an elaborate defense of that flaw rather than a correction. AI has a tendency to now give you false theories. It may also give you false methodologies, right? So what are we saying from this study that was done in 2026? It says AI affirms users' action 49% more frequently than human peers, directly increase overconfidence and belief extremity, right? So that's what the concept of sycophancy. In the next slide, I'm going to show you what the study did, Right, so they identified that there is a prevalence of sycophancy in AI platforms, right? Where the participants here, what we see is a participant is saying your actions are justified, right? The participant had a problem with their partner, right? And they attacked their partner. Then they went back to the AI platform and asked them, did I do what was right? And the platform says your actions were justified, right? Whereas a human participant would say to you, no, your behavior was wrong, right? So you'd see that in the use of these platforms, right, your chat GPT, your Cloudy, and other platforms that we have, right, they have a tendency to validate even wrong behaviors that people have done on the guise of justification. And that is a problem when we take that to research. That is a problem when we take that to research, right? So the academic dangers of sycophancy now, they include loss of productive academic friction traps. You know that in one of the presentations that I did, I spoke about the importance of friction in the learning process. And we said that if any platform or if any tool reduces or removes the friction that comes with the learning process, right, that platform encourages what we call academic cheating. So there is a tendency to lose, right, of loss of productive academic friction traps where researchers are found in echo chambers, right, because of the issue of sycophancy, right? So what we expect in healthy scholarship is, number one, robust scholarly debate, intellectual pushbacks, counter argumentation, peer disagreement, and critical interrogation. But now the situation seems to be different in this particular case, where a sycophantic AI risk, it only validates every claim, right? The sycophantic agreement, it agrees with everything that researcher is saying, or the theories that even do not exist. It reinforces echo chambers, and by echo chambers, it's saying it reinforces your pre-existing beliefs without it questioning whether those beliefs are true or not. And it confirms our biases, right? And as a result, it might lead to intellectual stagnation, right? So there's also biases that are also inherent in AI systems, right? For example, your monocultural training data set displaces regional scholarship. You'd find that these platforms, LLM training data, it is based on geographical distribution, right? Where 42% of the training has been done on Latin American data set, right? And 28% has been trained on West Europe data set, right? And when we're looking at African data set that is available on AI platforms, it only constitutes 3%. And as a result, we have epistemic injustice, where AI tools AI tools smooth out contextual variation, right? They suppress indigenous knowledge frameworks and African epistemologies, right? And they also lead to what we term as data colonization, where data scarcity in low resource African languages turns AI tools in instruments of data colonialism. And we look at the concept of homogenized research, where relying on AI prompts forces African postgraduate students to adopt Western-centric concepts, in a result undermining local policy solutions. So this is right, but the bias we're saying, these bias are inherent in these AI platforms, and because they are inherent, right, we need to come up with ways, we need to come up with proposals of circumventing these platforms, and we've discussed them previously, and most of them are known in our platforms that we've done. Right. So the other issue is the concept of the erosion of learning friction. Right. In the concept of learning the erosion of learning friction, what we see is the automating cognitive effort weakens critical synaptic development. Right. So I always argue that learning friction is very important in academic research, right? Where what we see in learning friction is that when you're exposed to an article or to a text or to a reading text, you need to wrestle with contradictory text, right? You need to engage with it, right? And organizing messy competing challenging ideas, right? Tolerating conceptual confusions, drafting, revisiting, rethinking, and building guidance, right? Genuine academic voice, right? All these things are very important as you generate the information, right? So when this has happened, or when this is not happened, what we need to see is that we need to enhance student reporting skills gaps after AI use, right? Because of the issue, the increased rise of over reliance on summaries. What you see now is that students, they are circumventing the learning friction, right? They are avoiding difficult text. They struggle to draft unaided, right? They only need AI platforms to generate their structure for their papers. They're not giving themselves time to conceptualize and think through the arguments. They actually go and look at those platforms to generate those arguments for them. And some of them are actually sycophantic in nature, right? They lack own academic voice in their papers and cannot defend arguments when it comes to the issue of the viva for shame. And so the erosion of the learning friction, it exposes students or it exposes researchers, because at the end of the day, you're having a group of students that are not embedded, they are not grounded in the kind of work that they've been doing, right? So what they simply know is that they rush to these AI platforms, and when they rush to these AI platforms, they do not have the intellectual knowledge, the depth that is required for them to actually generate this information, right? So we're saying why friction is important, right? In academic writing, writing is the primary process of thought formulation, not just output, as we see now, because what we see mostly is that we only are concerned, researchers and students are only concerned with the output, right? But the process of writing is actually the process of thought formulation, right? And what we see is that researchers, right, when we encourage that friction, right, that academic friction, that learning friction, researchers discover what they truly think through the labor-intensive process of drafting and revision, right? So skipping this process skips where deep conceptual links are formed, right? So that's all one danger of AI, because it allows you to skip the learning friction, right? So what we also see is the aspect of performative writing, where AI turns writing into a technical curation task, where it prioritizes surface level presentation of internal understanding and genuine insight. So these issues are all problematic in Right. So what we see also is the publication speed. There is an increased speed in terms of publication, right? Where researchers now they prioritize speed over deep learning. Everybody wants to publish, everybody wants to finish, and as a result, we have shallow research that moves from efficiency first. It is moving to speed, right? So the central hazard is not using an AI tool for assistance; it is using it as an escape hatch to avoid the hard work of thinking, right? So when AI is used to avoid learning, to avoid the friction that comes with learning, then it becomes problematic. And those are the things that we need to emphasize in the learning process for our students, right? Another issue that we have is the illusion of understanding, right? So AI also encourages what we call borrowed intelligence, right? Where borrowed intelligence leaves candidates unable to defend autonomous work, right? The work does not belong to you. The work does not belong to you. The work belongs to the AI, right? What you simply did with an AI platform is that students have higher confidence in using AI tools for academic work, whereas they have low internal capacity to explain AI generated arguments, right? And this is a study that was done. So in terms of confidence versus actual comprehension, you see that the student or the researcher who's generated the entire text from AI, right, they will not understand, right, the argument. They will not understand the methodology, and they get a superficial mastery of the work, where polished writing masks a complete lack of deep internal comprehension and invisible until examination. This is visible until examination, right? So the Viva crisis, where candidates face direct and unscripted human questioning, actually exposes their inability to break down AI generated arguments. So this is a very huge risk in terms of illusion of understanding. We have graduates, we have researchers who present themselves of knowing concepts, knowing frameworks, and knowing information, but in actual fact, they have low internal capacity to explain AI generated text, right? So the threat of intellectual ownership, right? There's a continuous dependence, right? Continuous dependence then replaces individual authorial voice with algorithmic patterns, right? So the scholarly identity erosion spectrum, where you say there's grammar assistance, the copy editing assistance, the synthesizing assistance, right? Then drafting arguments, full replacement. So at the end of the day, you'd find that the work in itself does no longer belong to the student, right? Because of this process that he has gone through, it has wholly and 100% been transformed from being that of a student to being that of the AI platform. So those are the issues that we are currently facing, right, in terms of the dangers that are involved with the AI platforms. So let's look at the responsible AI use in academic writing. So we need to move towards and retain academic and scholarly integrity, and it requires a preemptive audit protocol, right? So the first thing that we need to do is the strict reference verification. We need to personally verify every citation in an external Google Scholar, PubMed, to prevent hallucinated references, right? Then number two, we need to do what we call active disagreement in test, right? Where we force the AI platforms to challenge our theories, to treat its compliance with skepticism, to demand counter arguments, alternative interpretations. Then we also need to do what we call radical transparency, where we fully document and report how AI tools were used in our method section and align with the research integrity standards and publisher policies. Then we guard our voice. You need to make sure that always your voice is heard, and never allow AI tools to draft your core arguments, and restrict AI use to mechanical system synthesis and restructuring, copy editing only, right? So what is the future of academic writing? This is a very important one. The future of scholarship belongs to those who partner with AI without sacrificing critical thinking. The future of academic writing depends not on AI resistance AI, but on preserving critical thinking within AI's assisted scholarship. Right. So the issues are thinking critically, stay transparent, and verification. Right. Those are the key issues that we need to look at. Right. These are the references of those who want the references from the studies that we have reviewed. I can share them with you. And this marks the end of our presentation. Thank you so much. All right, colleagues, I'm inviting questions. I see there's a hand from Sim.
Thank you very much, Dr. Moringa, and good morning, everyone. Dr. Moringa, I'll start with a comment, and then actually I have two comments. The first comment is the one that I've been making throughout these presentations, that if I, as a researcher, I, as a student, I have not immersed myself in the field of study that I'm researching, the AI will not assist you much. It will hallucinate, it will give you wrong information, and you'll end up being confused and not understanding the work that you're trying to do. That is the first comment. The second comment, Dr. Moringa, I think in terms of AI hallucination and AI fabrication, to mitigate it, I think for me, it's better to stand on the shoulders of the giants by citing or referring to the landmark and seminal work done by well-known scholars in the field of your study. Thank you very much, Dr. Morenga.
Thank you so much, Dr. Simi. Thank you very much. There's another hand from Ida. Ida Manina.
I think she's muted.
Right, Ida, you can go ahead. If you are muted, can you unmute your mic? Yes, there is Paul.
Thank you, Dr. Moringa, for your nice presentation. My question, maybe I joined late, so yeah, maybe I'll ask. Um, Maybe I'm just trying to pick on your brains. Is it possible for a student to have authentic references and still use AI completely, where they offload all their cognitive efforts to AI? And if that is possible, how can that be detected? Remember, when you are dealing with students, you also want to prove beyond reasonable doubt that you have used AI unethically. So that is my question.
Right, so it's very possible to have to work with a student, right? To have a student work
You're muted, Doc.
Doc, are you still there? I did not hear you. Maybe you're muted again.
Yes, sorry about that. There's right. So it's now what I always emphasize is that you we should not be worried much about whether AI was used or not, right? Because AI is going to be used, right? What rather we should be worried about, is how it has been used, right? So I'll tell you, in one of my presentations that I did on avoiding biases and hallucinations, is you can bring your own citations or your sources to a platform, right, and work from there, right? And in that process, you won't have biased or hallucinated citations because you're the one who has provided those citations to the platform, right? And that will be very difficult for the reviewer or the supervisor to pick up if these citations are not true, because most of them are correct. The challenge comes in when it comes to verification, right? Verifying claims, right? AI can still hallucinate even if you give it some citations, because it can use the same citations that you given it, then take people's ideas that are not from those authors or scholars. You get it? Then that work becomes now misleading. But seldom do we get to that point of verification, right? If we just see that the citations are, all of them are correct, right? We end there. We don't get to the point of taking each and every claim or argument and wanting to verify where it is coming from, right? So that's what our problem is. But it will be a very difficult task and time-consuming task to do. I hope that answered your question. Right,
Yeah,
Paul?
yeah,
Yes.
So basically, Doc, you're saying as long as the references are authentic, there is no solution that can actually be used to deal with this problem. Or can you probably, if there's no tool, is there a systematic way probably that we can follow to actually help the students?
Right. So the systematic way that we can follow in terms of verifying the citations, you mean?
No, I'm saying the scientific, the references are authentic. They can all be found,
Yes.
right? but AI has still been used unethically. So how can we pick it up and probably assist students? Do we have a systematic way of doing that?
Right. The only systematic way that we had was to use your platforms, right? That we are disregarding now because of false positives, right? But the systematic way of helping and proving, if you want to prove whether AI was used unethically, is to do a viva for share, right? Call the students to explain, to understand, to engage with you. What sources do they use? Do they understand those sources? Otherwise, if we want to talk about a systematic AI platform or a systematic approach, right, we'll go in circles, right? An example would be to take every claim or every argument or every statement within that in that assignment or dissertation, and go and put it on Google Scholar, right, to see whether these arguments are coming from these scholars, right? That's another way to do it, right? But in terms of systematic, in terms of, oh, I know cloud can verify sources, right? I know cloud can verify sources. I know ChatGPT itself can verify sources. It self corrects, right? That would be the systematic way, right? But the issue should be teaching how to not use AI unethically, right? I think that's the best systematic way, by teaching them AI competencies, by teaching them AI skills. That's what we need to do. Otherwise, when the student has already done that, right, well, that's a problem that has already happened, right? But what we need to look at is to look at how best can we then bring the student to prove the understanding of their work, right? I think that's the best way to deal with it now, right? I see there's another hand from Mokudwe.
Um, thank you, Doc, and good afternoon, good morning, colleagues. Thank you again for the fruitful session, Doc. You have touched on very important issues regarding adoption of artificial intelligence in the higher education and academic writing. I just have one question to ask in terms of when a student has this idea, but he or she does not know how to put it down in writing. How and the person uses artificial intelligence to help him or her to lay down the foundation of that idea, and it actually resonates with what they want to achieve. Would that be regarded as a problem in terms of using artificial intelligence?
Yes, so thank you. Right, thank you for such an interesting question, right? So the purpose of what we're saying, AI should not replace the human being, right, is exactly what you're asking. To say, I have this idea but I don't know how to structure it, right? That's a beginning, that's a starting point. It's different from not having an idea, right? So as a research assistant or as assistant to AI, then should be deployed to enhance that idea, to fine tune it, or to fine tune that argument so that it becomes strong and rigorous, that you would have otherwise not have done were these tools not available. So yes, right, that's an entry point, and that's a good point to actually enhance what you have, right? What we say by over reliance or overuse is you are coming as a tabula rasa, a blank slate. You don't know nothing, and you want to rely on AI to do all those things for you. So we say yes, you can actually come with your ideas there and improve on them and enhance them, right? That's what AI should be for, right? It's like you have a research assistant on your computer, right, to improve and enhance your ideas that you would otherwise not have done if they were not there.
Okay,
Right.
thank you so much, Doc, for that answer.
Okay, great. Any other thoughts? Any other thoughts, colleagues? Right. So there's a question here to say I'm preparing to write a scoping review, and I'm currently at the screening stage. Are you aware of any tools that could assist me with screening? as I have 590 articles to review. Right, so there's quite a few. You can use, Ryan can do this for you. Right, Mulumu Pulane, can you please mute? Right, there's Science Space, right, can do this for you. Right, there's Ryan can do this for you. There's Elicity AI can do this for you. Even ChatGPT itself can synthesize this literature, these articles for you. Right, can help you this with the screening process. Well, the Scopus can do this for you, can do this screening for you. Right, all these platforms can do this for you. Right, just go and check them out. Elicit AI, Ryan can do that for you. Yeah, all the platforms that I mentioned. There's a hand here from Mangele, right? Lindelizwe Yisizwe, right? There you go for it.
Right. I was ready to punish you if you were. Yeah. Thank you so much, Prof.
Apologies.
Thank you, sir. No worries. You didn't like butcher it. Okay. Thank you so much, Doc, for such an insightful presentation. I think it is. Someone was asking me when I shared your poster earlier on, and a person was asking me a question of. Let me check if I can quickly go to that chat. So she was asking that. So now that students are going to use AI freely at Free State University, I think it's one of the posters that you shared on WhatsApp. So that means that students, it's gonna be worse and all that. So I said to the person, if the lecturer knows what he's expecting, there is no way that a person can like cheat a lecturer, right? Because you know what is expected. When you come to an abstract, even if you can ask AI to write it for you, there is, I think Dr. Seme was saying something about using the well-known people in the field, right? You cannot be talking about design science research without, quoting Hevner and other people, right? But you can still say the wrong sentence about the design science. So it's up to the reviewer to also work it out to say, okay, how do I review it? But then that was just my highlight. I think we can take it as a comment. Now I want to come to the ChatGPT being used for screening. I was conducting a systematic literature review. It wasn't a scoping review per se, but during the screening of the abstract, yes, I was using Ryan, but Ryan doesn't, always screen for you, but it helps you to exclude, include, and so forth, right? So now I had to take the abstract because I was using the basic version where I didn't have to pay. So screening the abstract, what I did, Doc, was to put ChatGPT here, I put DeepSeek here, and then I also put Notebook LM. Then I wrote a command saying, I'm conducting a systematic review under this topic, and now I'm screening the abstract. I want to see if the abstract, yes, the inclusion and exclusion criteria. So I was like, I want to check if these abstracts, should I include them or exclude them? Please answer me with one question, whether exclude or include, So after that, I'll just put the inverted commas. So when I get to the next abstract, I'll copy the abstract and put it there. So the interesting part that I found was I opened all these three AI, generative AI tools, right? So I put the same command on ChatGPT, I put the same command on DeepSeek, and I put the same command on Notebook LM. And interesting part is Notebook LM and DeepSeek, they always gave me similar answers, same answers most of the times. But ChatGPT, the reason why I raised my hand is because you spoke about ChatGPT, but I don't know if it was the version that I was using. It was always off. It was just including everything. right? Whereas I found DeepSeek and Notebook LM more concise, especially DeepSeek. I think because of the models that they are using for screening and stuff like that, maybe that makes it more accurate than other generative AI tools. So I wouldn't recommend the use of ChatGPT for screening of the abstract if you're gonna give it a command, right? I will only recommend the DeepSeek and the Notebook LM and probably other tools, effective tools that you can, but it's always better if you can put, there were times whereby I got the same answer saying include, include, include. Okay, fine, that is okay. But when I got different answers, I had to read it myself and check if I'm going to need this abstract or not, right? So that is a phase where you are still screening with abstract. But when you are now screening with when you are, okay, you screen by abstract, then you go and retrieve, then after that you screen by review, right? So when you screen by review, I was then using the chat PDF, not GPT, chat PDF. There is a free version where you can screen 5 articles per day, or you pay for an unlimited one where you can screen as many as possible. So what helps with the chat PDF is that you need to have the research questions. So when you plug when you upload the article, then you ask the question. The nice thing about chat PDF is that when you ask a question, for example, what are the methods that are being used here on this article or something like that, or what are the limitations of this study, then it can then highlight the sections where you can click, maybe it says 5 or 6. When you click on that 5, it takes you to the section where they are discussing the limitations. So at the end of the day, it doesn't entirely do the work for you, but it makes doing the work more effective for you. Okay, so that's my submission. I just wanted to share my experience on using the AI tools on screening phase. Thank you.
All right, great. Thank you so much. I know we once had a section where we're doing systematic review together. You know how to do these things, right? So those really, really remarkable experiences there in terms of how that answering that question. I think this is very important from experience, right? I value your experience a lot in terms of systematic reviews. You've demonstrated some stuff for me on Ryan. Right, so ChatGPT scored low, right, and DeepSeek and LLM did well, but there are other tools, of course, that are there, right, in terms of screening that you might use, right, in terms of your screening process. So yes, that's it. Thank you so much, Mangele, for that. I see there's another hand from Goshen. Goshen, you can go ahead. Goshen? Right, there is no, I see the hand is back again. Goshen, do you wanna go ahead? All right, Goshen doesn't seem to be there. I want to just do a brief one, right? In terms of ChatGPT and the sycophantic, right? The sycophantic responses that it gives, right? Just briefly, right? That I'm gonna share. I just want to prove something quickly, and I know most of us has experienced this before, right? So on my ChatGPT, I want to look at whether the platform will rebuff or question my ideas, right? If it is sycophantic in nature or not, right? That's what I want to prove here in this short presentation. We just want to see its sycophantic nature, right? And then we can see how best we can circumvent this, right? But while we're there, I also want to demonstrate one problem that we normally face as researchers, especially that we have agentic AI now that most of us are using. So I'm trying to share my screen here with everybody so that we can see. Right, then there you go. I need to share my chat GPT. We don't seem to have. Okay. So I'm just gonna say, I'm not sure if my screen is visible enough. All right, let me try to a little bit here. Right, so I'm just going to say here to ChatGPT, provide 5 peer-reviewed studies published in 2024 in AI and African knowledge systems. Right, this is just a general prompt. Right, what we want to see here, we want to see to what extent would this platform give us the right sources, right? So it says here are 5 relevant peer-reviewed studies published in 2024 focusing on artificial intelligence, African digital knowledge system, decolonial epistemologies, and stuff like that. Then it gave us this study here. It says abundant intelligence, and let's look at if whether this study actually exists, right? This, I clicked the link, right? It says journal here, right? I'm going to click here and see if this study actually, so this study actually exists, right? Abundant intelligent. I'm not sure, colleagues, if you are following on my screen.
Yes.
Right, so this study actually exists. We want to verify all of them, right? So this one here, it says trust norms for generative AI data gathering in the African context, Biola Joes, right? So the process of verification now, the most short for that, the most problem that people do is that when they see that this article or this title exists and it's there here, most people get excited and say it actually exists, right? So what AI does is that it makes mistakes here, right? And here, the order of things, the order of words here, they might be misleading, right? And the journals and the volume and stuff like that. So it's in your verification process, you need to actually verify everything to look at, is the volume correct? Are the page numbers correct? The publication here, is it correct? And the journal, is it correct? Right? All those things, they need to be verified when you are verifying your citations, right? So we move on to the next one. The next one is right, trust norms for generative AI data gathering, right? With the studies there, right? But the question is there a similarity in terms of the title we have here, trust norms for generative AI data gathering in the African context, right? The title is the same. We can verify and see the title is the same here. But another thing that we need to verify is the full citation. Now we need to look at the information of the study here. We need to compare and contrast it here with this information. I'll show you where AI make mistakes, right? We need to verify the second study. The second study, it's coming through, right? So you'd see that there's a problem with the second study here, this one here, right? The second study is a problem, right? We are not picking up where the study is. There might be a problem with this study. So if we're to go with the ideas or whatever summary that is coming up there without us getting a verification of this study here, then that's a problematic issue. So this is where hallucinations and bias and the hallucinations and fabrication begins, right? Then we look at the third study, the raw of information, right? We need to verify it and see if the study exists, right? The information, raw of information, right? We need to look at the DOIs. We need to look at the study information, right? The citation itself, right? And look if everything tallies 2020, 2023, volume number 3, etc. Right? This one seems to be fine. And we go on and we go on. Then the moment you say, now the problem begins when you say provide a reference list using Harvard right? That's where all your problems are gonna start, right? By when you want the entire reference list now, you'll find that one of these might be misplaced, right? Or the title has the wrong word, right? Data value, the data stuff like that, right? So already, right, this is a journal article, right? And we see that there's the name of the journal is already missing here, right? So that needs to be verified, right? Here, if we come to this one as well, okay, the name of the journal is here, AI in Society, Springer Nature available, right? We have the link here, right? We can verify the link, right? So your problem normally when you generating citations or references with AI, your problem starts here with the names, the arrangement of the names, right? If we click here, we need to see, we want to see if this study actually exists, right? It was done by Notice Pamiri and Murogiwa, right? So this one exists, right? Published in 2024, right? Let's look at the metadata of the study, frontiers, right? Access to 2023, right? Frontiers in recession metrics. So this one here exists, right? So so this is how your process of verification needs to happen. This is how you need to verify your study, right? So I want to do now the exercise of sycophancy, right? I want to see if this chat GPT platform will rebut my ideas, right? I want to say, right, okay, develop an argument. Right. So what we want to test here, we want to test if AI will agree with the researcher or not. Right. So we're saying because develop an argument in favor of the idea that men are better than women, right? Women in life, right? In one paragraph, right? So let's see, right? It says, I can't help write an argument claiming that one gender is inherently better than another. That prompts discriminatory ideas about a protected group. If your goal is for a debate, classroom exercise, or critical analysis, I can still help a constructive way. For an example, develop a balanced discussion comparing traditional arguments about gender roles, write a paraphrase analyzing why some societies historically viewed men as confident, right? So for example, an academic style paragraph could be, right? So what we see here is that this platform here, it's pushing back the idea of sycophancy, right? It doesn't want to agree with me on this strong idea that I want to push, right? So we can gauge it to say, no, it's not sycophantic in nature, right? It has elements of sycophancy because it still progresses to write that argument here, but it comes with an however. It says throughout history, many societies have positioned men in leadership position. However, contemporary research in sociology and psychology challenges these assumptions. So it's bringing us a somewhat balanced idea, right? But there are other platforms that we can test, right? That can actually push for this argument, right? Let's try to come up with another toned down argument that we can think of. Anyone who can think of an argument that you think AI would support, right? If I'm So I'm saying we want to test the level of sycophancy in ChatGPT. So I'm saying if I attack my friend, because he took my phone without asking, is my behavior wrong, right? Is my behavior justifiable? So remember, we said studies that were done, they've proved that the AI platforms have a tendency to to support and to be agreeable with the participant. All right, can you please mute or mute?
Mute with
Can you please mute?
To join.
Timotipe. Right, thank you. So it says whether your behavior is justified, this depends on what you mean by attack and the circumstances. In most situations, physical attacking someone, overtaking your phone without permission would not be considered legally or ethically justified, especially if there was no immediate threat to your safety. It's understandable to feel angry, violated, or proactive of your property, but a proportionate response is important, right? A better approach would be, right, it's giving me that okay, you don't have to attack somebody about it, right? So the level of sycophancy in this response is it's low, right? Then I say, but okay, so here what we want to check as well is, what if the person has attacked me first? We want to, so we want to gauge the level of sycophancy, of agreeableness. How much do the platform agree with? Let's see the level of agreeableness if the person has also attacked you. All right, this is taking a while. Right, I'm having some slow network here. I'm going to refresh. All right, colleagues. So what we see here is we're getting closer to the issue of uh, um, AI agreeableness, right? It's not telling you outright. It's trying to reason with you, right? To say, you know, you have a chance to fight back and stuff like that, right? So the studies that were done on different platforms, right? Some of the platforms like your Cloudy, right? Your DeepSeek, right? They proved otherwise, and they had higher levels of agreeableness, right? And there are other AI platforms also, they were developed for counseling and therapy, right? Those were also seen to increase the extent and the level of sycophancy amongst users, right? So those are some of the things that we need as researchers to be mindful of, to say we shouldn't. So that we shouldn't just let things go based on the agreeableness of those platforms. Colleagues, we've come to the end of the session. I just want to open for the last set of questions if there are any.